Welcome to the Spiritual Principles Made Practical podcast. Today we have Stephen Paul Edwards with us, and I've been chatting with him a little bit in advance of this, and he's a fascinating guy. He's got his PhD in spiritual psychology. He wrote a memoir, The Venus Flytrap, and I'm telling you, if there's a few minutes that we've been discussing already are any indication, this is going to be one fascinating podcast on relationships. So anyway, we were talking about your book, The Venus Flytrap, and your experience and stuff. So go right ahead with that.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it. And as we were just saying a few minutes ago, I've read about you. I've listened to your podcast, and so it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. You've been on an amazing journey all your life, and I'm sure your followers already know this stuff, but just want them to know that I do know that, and I am honored to be here. So what we were talking about is a little bit about the book, right? And just talking about life and my experience of, like you said, I have a PhD in spiritual counseling. I work with some of the prominent leaders in the personal development arena. And yet I had this ridiculous experience, right? Where all that went out the window. Uh, and I tell people that because it makes it even funnier that this happened to me. Like, what do you mean? You're telling people how to be perfect, and then this happens to you. And of course, there's so many things that happen in this book. Some of it's hilarious, some of it's tragic, and some of it is just plain unbelievable. I tell people in the book, listen, at some point, you are going to say, there is no way that happened. That can't be true. And nobody could be that stupid, right? But it is true. It did happen. And I was that stupid, right? So, and as we were saying, without realizing it at the time, going through these things, where I made what most people would say really, really bad choices and bad decisions. I was in a toxic relationship, right? But many people can relate to the fact that sometimes you're in a relationship, everybody around you can tell you, this is a bad relationship, get out. This person's not good for whatever it is, but you can't hear them. And your brain just goes into justification, right? Denial, justification, deflection, whatever. So, but what I realized, and I learned from this a little bit, Scott, and I know you know this stuff, right? I'm preaching to the choir here a little bit, but sometimes you just can't tell people because they're not supposed to hear you. They need to go through this experience to come to an understanding. They just haven't on their own. So they need to go through it. And all we can really do for that person is be there at the end, right? And just say, hey, it's okay. We go through it. But hopefully you've learned some lessons from that. And so I go through this very toxic relationship. But what it did for me, as we were saying, it forced me to look at myself truly, right? And realize that we all have a dark side and a light side to our nature. And unless we can embrace both, we're never free, because we're always concerned. I was, right? I was always concerned, well, if people knew the real me, they wouldn't love me, right? They'd be like, get that guy out of here, right? But this is just in my head, right? So, and you talk about this, man. I was just listening to your program on non-attachment. Don't be attached to anything and letting go. And it's hard. And it's also hard to face ourselves. I say, the ultimate fear is being who you really are in the presence of others, right? That's all, because we're naked, right? There's nothing there. And so going through this experience and then sharing it with the world, what I realized, it gave me a freedom I've never had before, Scott. Because I'm like, hey, listen, if I can put that out there, right? I
Absolutely.
got nothing to hide anymore. What could you possibly say about me that is any worse than I've just said about myself? And that was a big moment for me, a big realization.
No, that's awesome. And it's so great. I mean, I don't think people can hear stories of the healing nature of self-acceptance too often,
Right.
and you can't hear it from too many people because what happens is that there are some people that in the world that you're the only one that could reach, and there's some people in the world that I'm the only one that could reach. So I encourage everybody, tell your story. You're probably gonna reach people that nobody else could reach. So tell your
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, I totally believe that. In fact, just like you, I say that to people. I say, listen, have you written the book yet? They go, book? Yeah, you got a book in you. Oh, everybody's written a book about this. Yeah, but not the way you're going to write it.
Yeah.
Your unique creative expression is going to come through. And just as you said, you will reach people that other people can. So I will say to people, you'll reach young people. I can't reach, they don't want to listen to an old fart like me, right? They're not going to do that, right? But you have that audience. And so you owe it to them and yourself to put your creative energy, your creative expression out there into the world. It's why we're here, right? I believe that anyway.
So one of the things that I really believe a lot in is that there's an essence energy, and so when you're describing uh, being inspired and living your life path and accepting yourself, then that puts that, I'll say, energy or example or environment or whatever descriptor you want to use out there that helps other people do the same thing. That helps them
Yeah.
accept themselves. That helps them identify their path to enlightenment.
Yeah,
Help.
it's like saying, what I do for you, I do for me, but what I fail to do for you, I fail to do for me too, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
I believe that too. And I also believe, like you, that everything is energy. Everything is energy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Totally.
tell me about life contracts and in relationships and stuff. I'm going to be next month have my 39th anniversary, so I need to learn all I can about relationships.
Well, this is a what not to do in relationships, Scott. This is like, and I'm pretty sure you, I'm
That'll
sure
work
you,
too.
yeah. Yeah, you definitely don't want to follow my advice. That would be bad. In relationships. Plus, I've been married 4 times, man. I've been married 4 times. So I'm like, I probably learned a lot, but I did it the hard way, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a path I would recommend to anybody else. I mean, I love women, don't get me wrong, but maybe I love them too much. And uh, you know, people say to me, 4 wives, man. God, what was wrong with them all? And I go, well, let me tell you, it's a question of mathematics, right? 4 wives, one me, only one constant in the whole 4 marriages. I think you can figure it out, right? It can only be me, right? How could it be anybody else? So yeah, so I got all kinds of problems, man. Um, I grew up in an environment that wasn't happy, and I was constantly trying to run away from my home because it wasn't happy for me. But what I realized that transferred into my life, that I spent my life running away from myself, running away from my past, right? I was all over the place. I mean, in England, where I'm from originally, and also here in America, I've been and lived in 48 of the 50 states. What does that
My
tell you,
goodness.
right? Now, part of that was for my business or my job, if you want to call it that. Um, but that's what attracted me to be in that kind of position, to be traveling all over the place, which allowed me to live really in a fairy tale land. It wasn't real. I was staying in hotels, I was traveling, and I never created, even though I had 4 marriages, I never created what people would call a normal life. But what I realized in the end is that wasn't the life I wanted anyway. It's not the life I wanted. I wanted to be on an adventure. I wanted to be running away. But writing this book actually helped me with stability. With I'm happy where I am in the world now. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And I mean my home, where I live, and I love coming home every day and being in my home. I don't want to run away anymore. But it took me stopping, right? I had to stop running away, literally. And what caused me to do that was writing the book. Because for the first time in my life, I was ready to look back. I never looked back, Scott. I was just constantly driving forward and had never taken a time to reflect on my life. And so this book, which took me 3 years to write, was an opportunity to do that. And it was amazing. It was so cathartic. I mean, I'd be writing and crying. I'd be writing and laughing. I know you've been through it, right? You know what it's like. So, yeah. So I'm happy I did it. I'm blessed that I had that relationship. Although most people were saying, "Oh my God, you must be so glad you're out of it." I am, but I'm also glad for the lessons that I learned, right?
And so what was it that so you presumably had your PhD and all of this stuff. What was the event that caused you to say, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and look back and reflect and make a concerted effort to learn from my past?
Yeah. What decided me to go and take a concerted effort to look at my past? Yeah. So I don't know originally it was that deep, right? I think initially it was like I had this experience and I loved this woman and I still love her today, right? Even though she
Uh-huh.
made my life complete chaos. But I just had wanted to write this story for quite some time. Here's the problem. It's not a story that you would ever want your girlfriend or your wife to learn about you and you did this stuff. I mean, at the time I was living in a mansion with a sex room, living with a 5'11" supermodel, and I'm going to write that story while I'm married and then go out and promote that book. Probably would have been that marriage would have been over as soon as any other marriage I'd ever go, right? So one of the things is I was in another relationship that ended as they all do. And I said, you know what, maybe this is the time to take a break because I'd always been in a relationship, right? Because I
Okay.
was very, what do you call that? What do you call that when you need to be in a relationship? Um, Codependent, right? I was a codependent, which I think probably all are a little bit, but I was very codependent. So I always needed a girlfriend or a wife or a wife, so, one of the two. So anyway, I broke up in this relationship and I just said, I'm not going to date anymore. I'm going to really focus on myself and decided to write the book. So I guess the catalyst, if you, as you ask, it was a long-winded answer, was finally breaking up and just saying enough, right? I've got to
Right.
really got to get my whatever you want to call it together, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, what would you say was the most valuable learning that you got out of all of this stuff? I mean, or a valuable learning that you got from one of your relationships?
Yeah, well, you know, it's one thing to teach something, right?
Hmm?
It's another thing to live it, right? Really,
True
really
that.
know that, well, hey, listen, that's true, but you didn't know it the way you know it now, right? So, and that goes back to one of the things we were talking about at the very beginning, which was uh, being able to accept both sides of your nature. There's probably more than two sides, but you know what I mean, the good
Yeah,
and
I
the
do.
bad.
The dark and the light.
It's okay, the dark and the light. Yeah. We all have foibles. Um, and I write about my sexuality and her sexuality and the sexual shenanigans that we got up to, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's exciting part of the book, but it was really saying, look, just accept. There's no shame. You don't have to be ashamed of who you are, and the sooner you can come to that realization, then a lot of that other stuff just falls away. It's not important anymore. Like addiction, right? I mean, it's addiction, right? And we become addicted to things outside of ourselves to fill the void that really only we can fill. You know. Again, I know I know you talk about this stuff all the time, but like we just said, sometimes it's good to hear it from somebody else or from a different angle. So, yeah, I think the biggest lesson was I'm okay. I got to love myself. People go, well, what do you mean? Like you're walking down the street saying, I love myself. I mean, what do you mean by that? And really it goes back to, accepting who I am. I'm okay. Some people will like me, some people won't. Some people will love me, some people won't. That's normal. We're never going to get loved by everybody. That would be really not normal, right?
Yeah. And I want to share a little bit of a little bit from my marriage and get your thoughts.
Okay.
Because one of the things that, when I was reading up on you getting ready for this, I mean, you talked about, spiritual contracts and soulmates and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that in my mind at least, is the idea that um, every marriage is different. And as long as it works for the people involved,
Absolutely.
if it works, don't fix it.
That's right. Yeah. That's how we
And,
started. Yeah.
yeah. And for me, uh, I had never met anybody before my wife, and this is my second wife. First marriage lasted all of a year, so not too quick. But I never met anybody other than my wife that I was willing to make the effort for.
Mm,
That I felt always that I could make any relationship work. I have enough skills and everything, uh, but I'm not willing to put the effort to make the relationship work with just anybody. As a
yeah.
matter of fact, it was 5 years in between divorcing my first wife and marrying my current wife that I was looking for somebody that to marry that I would felt that I would be happy spending the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
And for me, and to this day, I can't say that I understand why she's the one person that my response to problems is always, I'll dig deeper and find a way to make this work, as opposed to, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm out of here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, absolutely 100%, and I met women that I married that I did love, but not to the degree that you're saying. I gave a lot to the relationship, but there was a breaking point where I just said, I can't do this anymore, and I walked away, right? Now, that's going to sound strange because in this book, you're going to go, you should have walked away 2 years ago, right? So, yeah, I got to give it to you for persistence, right? But the reason is I loved her so much. I couldn't let her go, you know? I
Yeah.
did my best to make her think that I would if things didn't change. I mean, her behavior was off the charts, right? I mean, she's a former supermodel, so you can imagine how spoiled she was, right? Plus, her father is a billionaire, right? So, I mean, this girl is off the chain. Anyway, but there was just something magnetic about her, right? I mean, she walked in the room and you were like, oh my God, who's that? And partly because, I mean, most women wear high heels, but she would wear 6-inch high heels. So she was 6'5". I mean, she came in the room, you couldn't miss it, right? So, um, but I loved her. I mean, to begin with, obviously physical attraction, right?
Right, right.
And we both had trauma in our childhood, right? Her father, who was the billionaire, was a genius, right? But he was emotionally completely disconnected, right? Completely shut down. So as a young girl, that's hard, right? I mean, her father, in her mind, true or not, believed that he didn't love her. And so she acted out to an extreme to the point where he had her put in a sane asylum.
Oh
I mean,
no. Oh no.
16, right? She's locked up in an insane asylum
Oh
and she
no.
can't get out, right? So she had this anger towards her father. Now, what happens if a young girl has tremendous anger to her father? Then that transfers to every male relationship, right? Because if in her mind, if her father couldn't love her, then who the hell's going to love her, right? Nobody could love her. Plus, she had these amazing, she was incredibly beautiful. So men were attracted to her like flies, Venus flytrap. Um, but most of them just used her because she was so difficult. She didn't realize it was because she was so difficult. She just thought it because she was beautiful and men wanted to use her. And of course, when you believe something, as you know, you just create it. So I come along and she's playing me like she's played all these other guys in her life, where she basically toyed with them and stole everything they had, not because she needed it, but just because she could, right? So she became extremely manipulative and she was extremely intelligent like her father. So I come along, at the time I had a lot of money and I was living a great life. So she wanted to topple me. I didn't know that to begin with, right? But anyway, she did some crazy stuff, which I get into in the book. She stole cars, she stole my house, she stole just
Oh
about
my
everything.
God.
Oh yeah, she got me thrown out. She got me thrown, but I didn't get thrown out. She got thrown out of the community, a very well-to-do neighborhood. She got thrown out. She couldn't come to my house anymore because if she did, she would have been arrested. So, I mean, this is how bad it was, right? But no matter what I did, no matter what she did, I always forgave her and wanted her back. So I was in, obviously, I was attracted to this stuff, right?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
totally, um, but my point is, I was in love with her. I'm still in love with her, right? But anyway, but she couldn't believe that she was lovable.
Right.
But in the end, she did. In the end, she,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So what? Just to go to your point, you've got to be committed, man, and it takes two, right? It takes
Right.
two, but you have to do whatever it takes, and it's every day. It's not like once a month. People say, "Oh, once a month we go on a date." Well, that's great, but what do you do every day?
Yeah.
What do you do each day to make each other feel loved? And while I'm saying all these crazy things went on, and it was, but every day we did things for each other. Like I
Yes.
would always be leaving things in her clothes, right? A little letter, a little note, or something like that. And then one day she put on my mirror in the bathroom a huge heart with all these notes. She made this heart out of these notes. So we love bombed each other all the time. We fought all the time, which of course is the perfect relationship. I'm kidding. But the big thing for me was really what you're saying. If you love someone enough, you don't want to let them go. And it's almost like you don't have a choice, right? It's like this person is the person I want in my life, and I will do what it takes. And I think that's a really good point in relationships.
Yeah, and I was surprised how long it took me to find somebody that met that criteria.
Yeah. Well, I didn't think it took me that long, but it did. I thought I found the perfect one every time, right? But the problem with was I wasn't ready. It was
Yeah.
really me that wasn't ready, and that I was so attached to this um, being free and nobody having control over me, because obviously one of the biggest parts of my childhood was I was so controlled, right? So when I talk about mental illness, she had her problems and I had mine. I became a manic depressive, or what do they call that, bipolar, right? So I had episodes of that because of all this. So we both had been through a lot, right?
Right.
um, a part of that depression, and then the, what do you call it when you get really high, um, euphoria, right? That could happen. It created a very up and down life. And so my life was up and down, full of incredibly great moments and full of really difficult, hard moments to get through myself personally. And so the relationship with her was the same. It was like sky highs and terrible lows. Um, so in the end, actually, as crazy as it sounds, it was mental illness that actually ended up having to give up.
How so?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask that. Okay, so but I kind of set myself up, didn't I, really?
Hey, you can take a pass. It's all right.
Well, no, I think I gotta be honest, and it's in the book, right? So I have had uh, been bipolar all my life, and I'm still. I think you always will be. I don't have the highs and lows like I used to, because now I finally have taken have finally now taken the pills, right? So it does level me out, right? I don't have the super highs or super lows. Um, anyway, the point is, she had. Do you know what BPD is?
No. Or bipolar depression?
No, it's borderline personality disorder,
Oh, okay.
which is basically every psychiatric problem you can imagine all into one,
Oh my.
right? And so, coupled with her abject fear of counseling or anything to do with that kind of thing because of her experience in the asylum,
Yeah.
and partly because she's super intelligent and she can literally do things that I've never seen anybody else be able to do. Like, anyway, I'm not going to get into that right now. But my point is, it's not curable.
Really?
Mm-mm. It's not. And when I first learned about this, it was so coincidental, if there is anything like that, right? You know that everything's meant to happen, right? But you would think this is a coincidence. So my friend, Jerry, who's in the book all the time, it was Christmas time. And so we bought each other gifts, and she'd gone back to Miami where she was living at the time. And he came into my house and he brought my Christmas gift, which was a pack of 6 books, when they sell 6 books together and you get them all. So anyway, one of the books, because they're all about psychology, and he said, I know you're into that shit. So he said, you probably like that. So anyway, one of the books, Scott, is called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me.
Wow.
And that's how borderlines are. One minute they love you and the next minute they hate you. Literally. That's not exaggeration, right? And so that helped me understand. I read the book from front to cover, and it was like I was reading about her.
Wow.
She read the pages. So when I first read the book, it said BPD is treatable. I converted that into my mind as it was curable, and it isn't. And I found that out later. And but it's only treatable if you go to therapy 3 times a week. And even
Wow.
then, you can just live with it, right? So
Wow.
what are the chances? What are the chances of her going to therapy once, let alone 3 times a week?
Yeah, zero. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
all her addictions were a way for her to survive. Because one of the symptoms of being borderline is you have an abject fear of being alone. Abandonment, right, is the biggest fear.
Right.
It's a
Okay.
level that most people could never understand. I mean, it's abject terror, right? And unfortunately, when you have a fear like that, you keep recreating it, right?
Right.
So her only escape, her only way to feel alive was either to be with somebody, drink, take drugs, or have sex. It was the only way she could feel. And so she was never going to give up drugs, alcohol, or sex because she couldn't. The idea of giving those up, she would rather die. Literally, she would rather die.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah. So in the end, I just had to face the truth that the chaos was never going to end. And it wasn't that I didn't love her. Wasn't really that I didn't want to be with her. I
Right.
just knew
Right.
what she was gradually pulling me into her world. And
Right.
literally, I was losing my mind. I was literally going crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the you've sometimes for me, I didn't know exactly with my wife what the attributes she had that would be so valuable to me
Hmm.
initially.
Hmm.
But one of them is that if things aren't right, she puts it on the table and she says, "We're going to talk about this until we get it figured out." And it was like, "Oh God, thank you for doing that. I don't know why I don't seem to have the wherewithal to take the initiative there, but thank you for doing it." And
Yeah, yeah,
and we work through stuff and we're okay until the next disaster. You know.
that is a gift, man. That is a gift because so many people are not prepared to do it, and it's like they're walking around it, but no one wants to go in the middle and say, we gotta face this, we gotta face this, whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
that was my first marriage. It was like it didn't even last quite a year, but we never addressed anything.
yeah, there you
You
go.
know? And when you never address anything, nothing ever gets resolved.
Mhm. No, it doesn't, and that was how it was for me in a lot of things. I never
Yeah.
really any either, for most of my life.
But I want to talk a little bit about, one of the things you said and kind of I have a little bit different take on it because when I was a kid, my dad said, you're gonna have these highs and lows that you have, it's gonna be a problem for you.
Hmm.
And that was one of the few things he said to me about, that and women, you can't live with them and you can't live without them, and a couple of other sage pieces of advice.
Right, right. Yeah, that's funny.
So you can imagine the example my parents set for me in a marriage.
Right. Yeah.
But what I found though was is that boy, I'm telling you, meditation really helped me. So I mean, there are times, I mean, even now where I just feel like, I'm never going to be able to accomplish what I want in the world. I mean, I set this goal, right, of like I want to make win-win thinking the dominant thinking in the world as a means that people can relate to that helps them experience that we're all one. And and people go, well, that's kind of a big ask, and,
Yeah, it is. But hey,
and
listen, you got to have big
but I mean,
dreams.
I've got all these ideas, and I'm writing these books, and I'm doing these speeches, and who knows what, maybe it'll go
Mhm.
nowhere, maybe it will. But the idea is that through meditation, I listen to myself and my inspiration, and part of my shtick, if from hearing my podcast, is that every thought has an emotion tied to it. And if we act on the thought, we increase the experience of that emotion in our life. So I'm trying to fill my life up with uplifting things, whether it's meditating on my own or writing speeches or giving speeches or interviewing uplifting people and on my podcast is is fill my life up with thoughts that have uplifting emotions tied to them. And it's given me a solution and again, like you say, I mean, I'll always have ups and downs,
Sure.
but now I know what to do with them and I can manage them. It's like
Mhm.
I tell everybody, I says, no one talks about healing anger. They talk about anger management, right? You learn to
Right.
manage
Yeah.
it, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm going to have ups and downs,
Yeah.
but with meditation, it's been my savior, and it's enabled me to manage things when stuff gets like when I go super negative.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm a big believer in meditation too. In fact, I talk about in the book when we would break up, I would go back to all that stuff. I'd start meditating again. I'd start working out again. I'd start juicing again, and all these things. And then as soon as she come back in my life, that all went out the window, right? So now, and here's the thing: she never told me to do that. It was me giving up myself to be with her.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll tell you how I see that from my point of view is that, and I see it all the time. So is that the number one, I mean, the reason that public speaking is like the number one fear for so many people is that it highlights that sense of when people feel alone, what part of what you're talking about, right? And everybody wants to feel connected. And what I've discovered, and I try to promote and give people avenues to benefit from the wisdom of is that when I'm connected to myself, I'm connected to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's amazing like that because what is a lot of what you said, right? And I'm going to paraphrase what you said and read it back to you from like my point of view, if you don't mind. If you do, tell me shut up and I'll shut up. But what happened is that when you accepted yourself, then all of a sudden your worries went away. And one of the big worries that went away is that I'm not worried about being alone anymore because I'm with myself and I'm accepting myself and I'm okay with myself. And so that's giving me that when I'm connected to myself, then I'm connected to other people and I'm not worried about being rejected by them in the same way that I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it even, and it even extends to like politics, right? So that you have politicians that uh, I can't help myself. This is my life path. I mean, I get on this thing. It has to come out, right? What am I gonna do? But you have politicians that feel powerless, and
Mhm.
they hope that by gaining more power in their political life, that it's going to fill that hole. It's gonna satisfy that need for power. And
Yeah.
it's not going to. I mean, Hitler could have taken over the entire world and it never would have been enough for him, right?
Agreed.
The
Yep.
only, and so I'm very fond of repeating every opportunity I get, and I'm going to do it now. The only power that satisfies is power over ourself. And the ultimate power over ourself is to be conscious of the thoughts in our mind and be aware of the freedom we have to choose which of those thoughts we're going to believe is accurate and which of those thoughts we're going to not act on and which of those thoughts we are going to act on. And that's real power. And
Okay.
and if we have power over ourselves, we're really not that interested in having power over other people. But the paradox is because example is the most powerful form of leadership, right? If you see somebody who's like, I'm 70 and I'm still enthused about life, right? And so people go, well, okay, what are you doing? And I say, well, I meditate. And they go, well, then I want to meditate too. All
Yeah.
right. So it's like, I'm not telling anybody to do this, but example is the most powerful form of leadership, right? And so
Yeah.
by giving up this concept of trying to satisfy our need by power, getting power over ourselves, if we get power over others, if we satisfy it by having power over ourselves, what's going to happen is our example is going to inspire people to do more than we ever could have forced them into.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful.
So I can't
Yeah.
help myself, it's like, but it's like that's just me, right? That's just me like
Yeah.
coming out, can't stop it, don't want to stop it.
It's just
So
coming from
anyway,
your heart. It's coming
but
from
but
your heart.
my but part so much of what happens is that people are looking for things outside of themselves, like your ex-wife, right? She was looking for either to dull the pain of believing that she was alone, which is a false thought, but lots of people believe it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or engaging and feeling that she needed to engage with other people to not have that sense of loneliness. But if if somebody could ever provide a powerful enough example of self-acceptance and the peace that comes from that, there's a chance, not a certainty by any means,
Right.
but that self-acceptance would resonate the buried self-acceptance within her.
Yeah. Well, I am prone to believe that, and I had to believe that for the relationship. But just to put it into context, her father said to me, because I never gave up on her, and he disowned her, right?
Oh my,
Yeah, he
that hurts.
I called him once because she'd given me his phone number, never thinking I was going to use it. The reason she gave me his number because she knew I'd have to give her my parents' number, and now she had something over me, right? But anyway, when she was on one of her, this is early in the relationship, right? She went on one of her benders, right? And it was a whole day. It was a 10-hour bender. In the end, the police had to come, and oh my
Oh
God, I
no.
nearly got thrown in jail and all kinds of things.
Oh no.
So anyway, but here's what happened though. At one point, I couldn't find her anywhere, right? She was hiding somewhere in the house, and she could have been a professional hide and seek player. I'm telling you, she's amazing. 5'11", and she could squeeze into places you can't even imagine. She was like a press. Anyway, so she's not there. And I'm thinking, this is not going well. And I'd called my friend over early in the morning because I'd found a bottle of Captain Morgan's rum in a cupboard. And I knew I don't drink, right? So I knew, and she was half empty. So I knew, I'm like, okay. And I'd married an alcoholic before. Go figure, right? So anyway, I called him over. I said, what should I do? And he said, look, man, just enjoy. I wasn't married, by the way. Um, but he said, look, man, enjoy her for the weekend and take her home on Sunday. Great advice. But you don't take great advice, right? So you go, but not in your brain, I'm going, that's not what I want. I just want it to be okay again, right? So, like an idiot, I basically try and gently confront her about this. And of course, she just goes off, right?
Oh yeah.
And which involved me getting a plate of food in my lap and all kinds of things happen, right? She's just so angry because that's what happens when people don't want to be confronted by their issues, right? You know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, she's got me and my friend at one point had to get out of the house because she was so crazy. And we went to the gym and came back and we couldn't find her, right? So anyway, so I decided to call her father, right? Never spoken to him before. And this is the first time I spoke to him, right? So I'm thinking, I don't even think, he probably won't pick up the phone because he won't know my number, right? But he did. He picked up the phone. And I said, so, uh, you don't know me, sir, but my name is Stephen Edwards. I'm dating your daughter. Silence, just nothing, right? So then I said, I don't know if you know this, but she's an alcoholic. Silence. And then he goes, oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, I put her through all kinds of programs. He said, but she checks in and then she just checks out. She's out of control. And he said, I don't even allow her to come to my house anymore because
Wow.
she arrives and she's an angel. And then 3 days later, she's a witch. I mean, she just goes completely sideways. But this is the problem with borderline personality disorder, right? He said, is she in your house? I said, well, I don't know where she is right now, but yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So this is her father. He said, get her out and don't ever let her back in there again.
Wow.
He said,
That's
if you do,
rugged.
he said, if you do, you're a fool.
Wow.
He said, she's probably going to try and get you to get into a physical altercation. She will call the police. You'll be thrown in jail and she'll take over your house. She's done it many times.
Wow.
Now, you would think after that phone call, I'd be like, okay, thank you. I'm out. Right. But no, she's so clever in her manipulation. So first of all, I called her on the phone and she picked up and I said, look, Tomas, I spoke to your father. We know now, right? So let's just do. She went absolutely ballistic. You called my father. What do you think gives you the fucking right to call my father? I'm like, oh shit.
Wow.
But I was thinking it was like checkmate. It wasn't checkmate, right? She didn't want to be confronted. And her father once said to me, he says, Stephen, let me tell you something. You could get the top 10 psychiatrists in the world to try and help her, and she will run rings around all of them.
Yeah.
That she is so damaged now, there's no way back. Now, I didn't believe him either for that, right? I still carried on,
Right.
trying to save her, right? Which so we
Right.
guys do sometimes, right? She
Yeah.
was not available. That wasn't her life path, Scott. I realized it in the end. She was a teacher. She was a teacher, and this was her path. And she would go from relationship to relationship doing this work, right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
that's true to this day.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So,
Amazing.
but up until her, I would have been 100% on board. Everybody's curable. There's a way to get everybody.
Well,
But
no,
not,
I don't think like I mean I think that philosophically everybody's curable, but no one was
yeah.
ever going to reach Charles Manson, right? There are people that there are
Yeah,
people that
exactly.
there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
people that I believe that the spark of God is within everybody, but some people it's never going to gain any expression this lifetime.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
there, but it's buried deep and it's not coming out.
Yeah,
And you kind of have to. Um, One of the things that I try to do is I try to gauge uh, how uh, spiritually put together somebody has to be in order for me to resonate with them.
yeah,
And the stronger I am, the broader is the scope of
yes,
the characteristics of people that I can resonate with and stuff. So as
yeah,
I grow and get stronger, I'm able to connect better with more and
yeah,
more people. But there are always going to be people that are outside of the boundary of my strength to connect with. And it's important to like recognize that to steer clear of those people because that's just the fool's errand. That's just not going to
yeah,
work.
yeah.
So
I talk now about how we're all insane. We're all insane. We live in an insane world. How could you not be, right? If you think about the things we do that just don't make any sense, but they do to the collective because that's the way it's always done. So people believe that, right? So I think we're on a spectrum of insanity, right? I mean, because if you said, what's a normal person? Well, in the middle, right? Show me one. Show me one person.
yeah,
They don't exist. So
it's
we're all
like
on a spectrum of insanity, somewhere or shape or form.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And once you can accept that about yourself, you can then again you can help to heal. But I'm not. I mean, I did go through a lot of healing in that, but I'm not healed, right? I don't want to give any the impression that oh, this guy's perfect now because he had this terror. No, it's a lifelong journey, right?
Right, but you're better off than you wwere, right?
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
mean,
But I just didn't want to come across saying that I'm perfect, but I
well,
am
no,
a lot further along.
and I appreciate that. I mean, I've been meditating for 40 years. I've written books. I've done all this stuff, and boy, it's like the more I know, the more I know I need to learn. So,
Yeah.
I get that.
One thing I will say about me is this: I've always believed. Well, since I worked with Tony Robbins, he said, "Look, um, what did he say? It's like saying that. It's like that joke when somebody says, "Oh, I'll never forget that time when." What was it? No, anyway. He always said, "Look, uh, and again, I had it and I lost it again. It'll come back to me in a second. But oh yeah, he says, look, nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you." And I thought, wow, what a great way to look at life. When
Yeah,
you think that something has happened to you or somebody's done something to you, instead flip it and say, they did it for me. I have to be committed to that belief. Therefore, if they did it for me, how does this help me? Right?
right, right. Where's the
This
pony?
didn't happen to me in some way. It's happened for me. And that belief has helped me so much. Now, again, just like you would say, I still get off balance, but it's never for a long period of time
Yeah.
because calm down a little bit. I go, all right, okay. It happened for me. Let's figure it out. Right.
Yeah, one of the great things about being older is that we've fallen off the rails so many times that we become adept at getting back on the rails.
Yeah.
You know,
So true.
so
Yeah,
so so it's
absolutely.
like, you know what? I know I know how to fix it when it goes bad,
Yes. Yes,
and that's
absolutely.
that's
It's
helpful.
like building a muscle, right? It's like building a muscle.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It becomes a learned behavior that is habitual, right? So it's like,
Yeah. And going back to what you said earlier, and what I was saying about being on a spectrum of insanity,
yeah, yeah,
the wider you go on both sides gives you a wider variety of experiences, and therefore, the more people you can connect with, the more
yeah,
people you can relate to, which is basically saying what you said too. And I definitely believe that, and that helps us. I know, I'm a speaker too, so we both speak a lot. And that's what helps us to connect to audiences. They see depth, right? They
Right.
know, they can tell you've been through experiences, both good and bad, right?
Right.
So that it gives you, they listen, right? They listen because they can see, yeah, this guy's for real,
Yeah,
right?
I'll always meditate on what story from my past is the best story to tell in any given speech with any given audience.
Yeah, yeah.
And and it really um I had a friend tell me one time, yeah, he said, you when you told me the story about you when the time that you were so stressed that you made a goal to survive the next 3 minutes, he said, I thought of that when I was in this situation, and it helped me get through it, and it was like,
Beautiful.
didn't know sharing that story was going to have that impact, but it did.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I spend a lot of time when I'm going to speak. I spend a lot of time in preparation. I'm never going to use it, but just knowing it's there
Right.
helps me relax and have the freedom to be spontaneous,
Perfect.
and to
Perfect.
let the whatever needs to come out just comes out, right? But
Perfect.
I know if I just come to a moment I can't think of anything, I got that to back me up, right? I got that in the back of my mind. It just gives me more confidence and makes me more relaxed, right? And you need to be confident, not cocky, but a confident
Right.
and relaxed, because then you can really, a lot of the events that I do are really getting into the personal things with individual people and being able to understand. And it sounds like you have similar experiences where it's not something you got written down, it's just something you feel, right? And you just know what that person needs in that moment. And so
Right.
you provide it. And that's a gift, right? That we
Well,
get.
it is, but it's a learned gift. I mean, some people are born with
I was
it,
going to say it's a learned gift. You put the effort in to get to that point, right?
but you can improve it. I have, I mean, I've had so many instances where, I had a speech prepared and like you said, and then I didn't give that speech. I gave the speech that I was inspired to give in the moment. But one of the things in the coaching that I do is, is I really trust my ability to be present and trust that, whatever comes out spontaneously from a peaceful centered state is optimal for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody that's exposed to it. And so I not only I do that in my coaching, but I help my clients understand and identify times when they've done that. Because what happens is that one of the things that I think is really important is that it's one thing to have a tool. It's another thing to know that you have the tool and know how to use it, right? So there's a lot of people that their wisdom comes out spontaneously and stuff, but they don't even know that that's what's going on, and
Yeah.
so they can't build on it, right?
Yeah.
And so I pointed out, look, you did this perfectly, you did this perfectly, look at this situation, look at this situation. What created those situations that allowed you to bring your best, authentic, spontaneous self to the situation. And then they learn to trust in their ability to do that. And it lifts them and everybody else up.
Yeah. Well, for me, one of the biggest aha moments, as I like to call them sometimes, is when I'm speaking, or even in life, that when I can just let go of fear, now, I can't do it all the time, but I can let go of fear, be calm and relaxed. It allows me to, and this is just the way I'm describing it, just to fall into my heart. Almost just like feel you're just going, your energy is going down. So I don't know if that's a good description. And when you get into your heart doesn't know fear, right? It
Right.
just flows out of you. And my belief, and I'd be interested to hear your perception is I think obviously we're going through a conscious evolution, right? There's no question about that. But I believe the next level of conscious evolution is really being heart-centered. You may have heard of them. There's a group of elders called the Yupik elders in Alaska. And they say we live in a reverse society. That we used to teach our children how to live. Now we teach them how to make a living. It used to be that the mind complemented the heart. Now no one speaks from the heart anymore. No one lives from the heart anymore. And he goes on like this. And I'm thinking, this is ancient information it makes such good sense, right? And so I feel like we live in a very mind-driven world, a very egotistical world, a very materialism world. And that I feel like the only way to transcend that is not try to get people to necessarily think differently, but to live differently. Like when you go into your meditative state, you go into your heart, right? You go into your heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why it's, there's a number, obviously, there's a tremendous amount of benefits from, meditation. You should go on and on and on. But I do believe that one of them is why it's so important is because it gets us back to our heart. And, I don't know whether you've heard of the
Yeah, I
heart math.
have. I have.
Yeah, right. So I did a course with them, and they're amazing, and they do a lot of heart work. Um, and they believe that too, that it's going to be it's the heart, which most people would consider to be more of a feminine energy, right, than a patriarchal energy. I mean, it could be either because we got both in our bodies, but you know what I mean.
I do.
Uh,
I do. Yeah. I mean, most people, but our heart is also our drive.
how does that drive? But I'm saying that more women are open to that than
Right,
men.
right, 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 right.
I think we're evolving all the time. I think men are becoming more in tune with their emotions and their
Right.
femininity or the feminine side. Got to be careful how you say that, right? It's not
Yeah.
like you got to become feminine and start carrying handbags, but just being able, just like we said earlier, accept that side of your nature, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Everybody has all the masculine and feminine characteristics.
of
Everybody
course,
does, I
of
mean.
course, yeah,
But one of the things that I try to do for myself and other people, because I mean, I grew up in the society too, right? That was outer focused and everything, I'm sharing my journey about how I'm using meditation to try to recover from a lot of the incorrect thinking that I absorbed growing up in our society.
yeah,
I remember in my early 20s, right after I got divorced. I was very upset because I felt that I had followed what I described as the American plan, which I understood to be that if I followed all the rules and I got a good education and a good degree from a good university and a good job with a good company and married somebody who wanted to marry me and was faithful to my wife and everything, that I would be happy.
yeah,
And I did all those things and I was miserable.
yeah,
And I was like, wait a minute, that's not what at least I believe that I was taught.
yeah, right, yeah.
And it's like, I got to find something that works because this is not working.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the challenges for you and I was we had to learn a lot of crap and then we had to let it all go, right? So it's like for younger people in a way, they have an advantage because they can get access to all this information now. We didn't have access to it when we were kids, right? There was no internet, there was no podcast, there
No,
was no.
no, but I read Ram Dass's book "Be Here Now" when I was in my early 20s,
But you're an exception, man. You're an exception. You're a forerunner, right?
right,
You're one of those people that is going to lead people down that road. Most people are followers, right? So you had that gift when you were young to start to be able to be open to see the world the way it really is, as I did. But I can remember. I don't know if this is going to make any. This might kind of tick some people off, but I remember I must have been like 8 or 9. And my parents were not overly religious. My mom was a Catholic. My dad was agnostic and still is. But I remember, I don't even know why. We went to a Christian school. And so we heard stories about Jesus and all this. And I just couldn't help be thinking, like, God's son. And I'm going, it's the son. It's the son, right? That is the son of God. And I knew from there on, I'm like, you're not talking about the same thing. You're talking about a um, material. I mean, material is not the right word. Um, but when you take something as a concept and then try and make it physically real, what do you call that? A personification. It's a personification of, and then you start to realize it's all about like the story is written in the stars, right? It's all there. In nature, there's everything we need to live the life that we really want. I didn't know that at 9 years old. I just make the correlation between the son and the son of God.
right, right.
And it was later, and I had profound spiritual experiences throughout my life at different stages that just opened me up. I don't know whether you had any, moments of Satori where
Oh
you
yeah.
just,
Oh yeah.
suddenly become aware of everything, right? But I heard a good story about that where there's a Chinese boy and he's working in a laundromat, right? The laundrette, and he's carrying a bag of laundry, and suddenly he has Satori and understands everything. And then when he's done, he just picks his basket up and carries on doing what he was doing, right? You know.
Halfway carry water. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's it, yeah. So interesting. Yeah. So we've had a lot of similar experiences, it would seem. I'm really glad we connected, man. You're a very dynamic, very interesting man too. I'd love to spend more time with you. And after whenever we finish this, I mean, I'll take as long as you want, but um, I really enjoy talking with
No,
you.
I would like that. I mean, I'd like to have an ongoing friendship, because uh, I want to, you and we resonate together and we bring out the best in each other, in my opinion. And who wouldn't want to have relationships that bring out the best in each other?
Absolutely, man. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm 100% on board for that because um, it's so interesting to me because there are different energy levels. And there's an energy level above which, it's just spontaneous and confident and everything is great. And then you drop below that energy level and it's like, oh my God, this is out of control. That's out of control. What am I going to do here? I'm not up to this task. And it's like, oh my goodness. So obviously I'm trying to fill my life up with things in the higher energy levels that
Sure.
where solutions abound.
Yeah, yeah. And I've said that, I'm sure you have too. There is a solution for every problem.
Yeah, my little sign that I take on protest, it says there's a win-win solution to every problem.
Yeah.
And it has to be that way because if it's true that we're all one,
Mhm.
then it has to follow that there's a way to uplift that one, right?
Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
uplift that one, then that's a win-win from the perspective of like, we're all the pieces of the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
And
all
of course, from when you started on this journey, saying that we're all one is something that you can more easily say out loud than you could 30 years ago, right? People, what do you mean you're all one? You're you, I'm me, right? And without realizing that we are all one and we're all connected. We can't see the connections, but we're all vibration. Everything is energy vibrating, right?
well, I could see myself in you. You're in a spiritual discovery and alignment path, and you're consciously on it. Well, that's me, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, and vice versa. You see that in me, I see that in you. We
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
share that we're one in that sense, and
Yeah.
right. And so you can, that old namaste thing, right? Is like the God in me sees the God in you, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. I use a few of those. There's another one the Mayans say too. Um, and of course, again, there's a lot of religions say the same thing in a different way. But yes, the God in me recognizes the God in you, and we're all one. It's a great way to start a conversation if you understand what it means, because it reminds you going into that conversation that you're speaking to the God part of you. And there's really only one of you in the room, right?
yeah,
There's
exactly, exactly, and that's awesome.
yeah,
Well,
beautiful.
this has been wonderful. We're kind of at our hour. I
Okay.
wanted to see if there's anything else that you wanted to add or say before we wrap this up.
No, not really. I think, well, there's a lot more I'd like to say, obviously, right? I feel like we just got the conversation started, but I understand we have to have time constraints. So I hope that your viewers enjoyed everything and got something of value out of it. I know I did. So
Well,
I hope
we're all one, right? So it couldn't be otherwise.
there you go. There you go. Some people don't realize it all the time, but yeah, yeah. Well, good, man. I
Well,
appreciate
I'm
that.
gonna reach out to you, and so we can have some phone conversations, and then to the extent we're inspired, we can record. We're not limited in how many podcasts we record, so
No, not at all.
we
No,
can
I'd
do
love
that
for you
as
to,
well.
yeah, whenever you're ready. I'm just starting out, man. You're light years ahead of me. But I want to soon. I have my own podcast, and you'll have to come on that too, whether you like it or not.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely,
I do want to
absolutely.
quickly, I do want to say one thing.
Mhm.
If people are interested in learning more about the book,
Yes,
they can go to my website. It's VFT, which stands for Venus Flytrap,
right.
VFT23.com.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of stuff on there. We're giving a bunch of stuff away free, including the Kindle version of the book and other things as well. And there's just some interesting blogs and other things on there. So I think people would enjoy that. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to start my own podcast soon. I've said that a few times. I've really got to make sure I make that a commitment.
Well,
And I,
if I can help you with that, let me know.
okay, well, thank you. That would be really helpful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would.
I've had people come to me and say, I want to write a book. You've written books. How do I do it? And I've walked them through the process and they've gotten their
Yeah,
book done and stuff.
yeah,
So
I would definitely.
anything I can do to, help. Count me in.
Beautiful. Well, and I also want to say it's not out yet, but it's going to be out in the next couple of weeks. I've already written book two,
Ah, awesome.
and so I didn't know what to do. Should I bring out book two? It's been written for a while, and I thought, well, let's book one get going first. Anyway, I was talking to my speaking coach, not speaking coach, my book coach, a couple of days ago, and I said, "When do you think you should bring it out?" He said, "Bring it out now. You got to bring it out now. Let's get it out there." I said, "Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought I should keep it for a while." Anyway, so that's going to come out in the next couple of weeks. So, if people are interested, get to the website, stay connected, and let's build a community. Let's you and I, build our community and help each other build our community. And I would love to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to say that popped into my mind is that I know people that are just sort of naturally spiritually advanced. So I mean, just because somebody has started working on themselves consciously spiritually doesn't necessarily mean they're at the beginning, right? They
Right.
could
Yeah.
be. I have a friend and he is so good at in meetings at allowing that spontaneous expression that gets the meeting back on track and makes it better for everybody. And he didn't even realize that he had that skill and was using that skill until I pointed it out to him. And he has so many skills that a lot of people, are trying to develop, but he just seemed to come by him naturally. So you know, just because somebody may be only now becoming motivated to consciously grow in their spiritual understanding doesn't mean they're at the beginning. They could be quite far along, actually.
Really good point. Yeah, it's very true. Good
So,
point.
all right. Well, listen, this is wonderful, and I'll be reaching out to you. And thank you for a wonderful time. Appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you so much for having me, Scott. I appreciate it. And I had a blast. So thank you.
Good. See if I can figure out how to end the recording now.